My friend here, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Anwin for anyone who's new here, and let's get into building in Planet Zoo. And I'm starting a brand new zoo today, and I thought I'd try something a little bit different. And I'm actually going to be renovating the career mode scenario for the Twilight pack, Castell Myers, and I've just completed Castell Myers scenario all the way up to gold last week, so if you haven't seen any of those, I would recommend having a look because it is really fun. And I really love the map, but I really wanted to put my own twist onto the scenario zoo. So I've loaded it up into Sandbox and I'm going to renovate it, and how you can get your own pre-terraformed map instead of having the big blank squares for Sandbox is really easy. You select Sandbox from the main menu and then select New Zoo, and then you can either create New Zoo and pick your biome, or you can select Scenario Zoo and pick a Scenario Zoo out of all of the ones that you have available. That includes the time scenarios as well. I selected Castell Myers because I wanted to do a Twilight Zoo, of course, but there's a lot of interesting pre-terraformed maps. Once you've selected the scenario zoo that you like, then choose what difficulty you'd like and whether you'd want it to be terrain only or to load it up just how the scenario starts. I find it a lot more inspiring to have a pre-terraformed map. If you struggle starting a zoo, it can really help having something different to look at. The flat maps can be kind of tricky to start in. It can also add a little bit more of a challenge as well if you're a more experienced builder. It can add a little bit of a challenge to work around the terrain that's already there, or if you're a newbie, you've got things ready to work off, so you could like duplicate some of the buildings that are already placed in, so you don't have to start on a complete blank slate. I still wanted to make it a castle entrance point, and the first thing I thought with a castle was that it needed a moat. So when I was playing around with the terraforming, I wanted to add in a space for a moat, because like, what's a castle without a moat? It looks a little bit odd at the moment, like a big sea of water. Like I put my own initials on it, but once you get the castle in and everything, it'll work out quite nicely. Let's get this entrance building started now. I've done a bit of terraforming and a bit of renovating. That'll be like a work in progress thing. I did hint towards this in the last career mode scenario episode that I did when I completed it up to golds, but I wanted to do a Welsh castle, and Wales has the highest number of castles per square mile. Wales is quite a small country, so we have like a lot of castles for how small we are, but teeny tiny little country. But so I had like a lot of choices to pick for which castle I would like to imitate. It's going to be inspired by, because building something completely as a replica would have taken even longer than what it actually took. It took about 8-9 hours to build, so I'm not going to say it's complete replica because I don't think I would be able to completely replicate a building, but it's very close to what the castle actually is. The castle that inspired this entrance building is a castle called Castell Coch, literally translated red castle. And you might be looking at this like, this ain't red, Caitlin, what do you mean? It's not. It's also called the Fairy Castle. It's a castle near Cardiff. You can see this beautiful castle lit up in the hills. It's always really, really nice to drive past it. It's lit up beautifully. It lights up all different colours depending on what time of the year it is. But the best time of the year to see this castle is in autumn, because all the autumnal trees around it looks absolutely beautiful. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with this. I might change it when it comes to like closer to winter in December and make this kind of like a snowy landscape, but for now I wanted it to be quite autumnal. I love trying to make things in Planet Zoo from real life objects or real life places, but also putting my own little twist on it. So I wanted to make this like beautiful window. I love that we have new windows and new like doors and things from the Twilight pack, and I'm going to try my best to make this entrance building Twilight pack and base game only. So like for the window in the real fairy castle, there's stained glass patterns, kind of like church windows, so the stained glass from the Twilight pack works really well. Probably one of the biggest buildings I've ever created. It's very, very tall, and adding like these big roof pieces as well made it even taller. I love these roof pieces though. The height for this style of roof piece seemed a little odd. I think it was like 9.5. It's like, where did that come from? Why does it have to be 9.5? The pictures of roofs tend to be like 2, 4, that type of thing. But 9.5? One thing we are lacking in Planet Zoo though is chimneys. I searched for the word chimney to see whether I could find anything in any of the packs to add chimneys into the castle, and there's one. It's in base game. I think it's the classic style. It's like a brick chimney. Did not go with the vibe of this castle, so I actually used turrets. I don't know what they were. I think they were the turrets, I'm not quite sure. But I just stacked a couple of those together, put a topper on it, and then used special effect for smoke to make it look like a real chimney. And we're getting in with a little bit of red straight away. Or sort of, anyway. It's been 20 minutes for me, but sure. So a little bit of a hint of red for this top balcony piece. I don't even know what it is. It's like a decoration, really. You can't get up there in the game. It's just a decoration for the wall, but I think in the actual castle you can actually go up into these spaces. I haven't been to Castell Coch in a very, very long time. So most of the time when I was building, I was using reference images. So if you want to like see what this castle looks like, I do have a Pinterest page where I save my inspiration photos from my builds. I wasn't going to spend another hour building this from scratch again. May as well just duplicate certain things. Even using those types of cheats that I'd already been doing, this still took me so long to do. Like, it took me almost 9 hours to do, and I think it's just because I was so fussy with it. The entrance building for Castle Myers was a really nice entrance building, so I kind of felt bad deleting it, but I also kind of wanted my own vibe. So I think I had more of a pressure there because I wanted to make sure that it looked as good as the original one, but with my own kind of twist to it. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to make something look good for this part of the map. And for this tower, so the first two that I added in, the roofs, which one is it? Me and my mum have been talking about this a lot. We've been doing cross stitching. I've cross stitched a rabbit, and my mum cross stitched a little unicorn, which was just adorable. She was doing like the hoof and the hoofs, so it's just like, is it hoofs or is it hoofs, and is it roofs or is it roofs? It makes no sense. Where did this... yes. So the roof was different on the other tower to the two first ones that I built. So I kind of just lowered the 9.5 meter tall tower down into the rest of the tower, so it was smaller and thinner. And then I used the tower pieces, the larger one than what I used for the chimneys, as a side tower, like to fit in with the rest of the tower there. And I thought that looked really nice. It fits in really nicely, and there are little windows in there as well, so they'll light up in the dark. Now for the kind of courtyard part, like, this is the trickiest part in the entire build, I think. Not only because it was like angled and I needed to make these angles all connect to each other in some way, but like the roof pieces were a little trickier too. I built one sort of rectangular building that I like the size of, and then I split that from the group of the main castle building, so like the main group of the castle, so I could then duplicate it and move it using advanced move. So I could have these walls that are technically on a grid still be rotated any angle I like, instead of having it only rotate 45 degrees. And then once I liked how the 3 different buildings connected to each other to create the angled shape, I then had the difficulty of trying to roof the entire thing. These corners have always been a kind of nightmare for me, because we've got like a smaller corner there. You can't actually use the corner pieces because the roof is too small. So I went in with the panels, and I actually used the corner piece of the roof as a template, so like I could have the correct angle. And if you've seen the roof from my Ballion Zoo, where we had these like awkward corners, it was a mess. I don't even really want to show you. Like, I know it's on the internet, so you can go and look, but I will not be showing you this on this video. It was a mess. I could not figure it out. So once I'd figured it out on this, I was elated. I felt like a roofing genius. I was like, right, I'm an architect now. That's it. I figured out these little corners. I'm an architect now. I'm a digital architect. Only on this game though. Onto the guest spawner and the ticket gate thing. That was a little tricky because we've got a couple of different groups now and a couple of different grids. Trying to align things up wasn't the easiest. And I also wanted to try and path them as much as I could inside the courtyard, so the guests look like they could move around and walk around rather than just having a set path. So it was a little bit of creative liberties in this bit, a little bit of tweaking to get everything to fit, but I did manage to get the spawner and the gate to fit into this little building here. There are like rounded arches inside the castle, so I thought that would still kind of fit the vibe and have a sort of inspiration of the shapes of the inside of the castle without completely replicated it. I thought I would put some shops in, like all of the guest facilities other than bathrooms. Oops. I had a little bit of fun with the counters because I did coffee and donuts for one set of shops, like because I did two, like there's 6. And then for the other side, I did pop, like soda and pizza. So pop and pizza. What do you call fizzy drink? For the other 2, it was the balloons and the information. I did the merch and the information together then. I wasn't quite finished with the castle, but I was thinking the castle was looking a little odd on its own. And I also wanted to kind of hide the ends of the moat. So like maybe it looked like it carried on underneath the terrain, even though it didn't. So I wanted to like cover those ends up with some rocks. I ended up using a blueprint that I'd already created from my last zoo because it's the same biome, so I could use the same rock types. Once I'm like happy with a set of rocks, that's all I'll do is duplicate them over and over again. But if you want to have a few tips on how to create your own little rock formations, I've got more shorts and TikToks about that as well. To save time with adding foliage, trees and bushes around, I tend to favourite the groups of trees that I want to add into the scenery around a zoo. So because I wanted to make this very autumnal, I favorited all of the different trees with the autumnal colours in them, even if they don't fit in with the continent or the biome of the zoo. It's the same with adding favourites in the facilities tab. I always favourite donation bins, education boards, education speakers, that type of thing that I know, and bins, regular bins as well, that I know that I will use repeatedly throughout the zoo. So if you want to quickly find something that you'll need a lot in your zoo, like conservation boards, education boards, donations, things like that, know you'll use more than once. Favourite them so you don't have to scroll to look for them. Just click that little love art and you can grab it straight away. And now on to windows. I took some more creative liberties with the windows. I didn't think it was red enough. Calling this the red castle, even though it's not really that red in real life. I didn't want confusion to go about. I'm also sort of worried that the word Coch is going to be penalised because it's very close to another spicy word. Just one little letter. So I'm a little bit unsure about that. I might just call it the Fairy Castle because that's what we tend to call it anyway. But I wanted to add some windows about, so I ended up using some Indian style base game windows because I really like these for the shape, and I recolored those the same color that I added, that I used for that red roof detailing thing. I couldn't get like a really clear image of what these windows were, but they were kind of like open wooden slat windows. So I just used some of the door panels to create like this little window. Even though they're called small window frames, they're slightly too long for the smaller squares, which is slightly disappointing, but I didn't really mind like having that extra long piece at the top. I thought the back of the counters were kind of bland, a little bit boring. There wasn't a lot going on around the back of that. So instead of having these nice curved windows above the curved archways where the counters are, I put the curved windows behind the counters so there was something to look at, and then added some of the smaller stone windows on the top just to add a little bit of extra detail. It's nothing like the real castle. It was just trying to add in extra windows for a little bit of an extra detailing around the castle. Just picking all sorts of different windows to decorate the rest of the place. I did try to look at what the actual fairy castle looked like to add windows into some of the same areas. If it's not exact, I still wanted it to be kind of similar, and a similar sort of size or style. Square ones, smaller rectangular ones. The only ones that don't look like the castle at all are the red ones, I think. And then I put some of the Twilight pack cauldron bins in that little cover area, so it was kind of hidden and it's like a little bin cozy where the guests can still like dispose of their waste, but it looks a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And I used some of the torch lights around the inside of the castle as well to match what I'd put in for the outside. And there's just like this little gap here, and I just didn't know what to do with it. And like fairy castles, fairies, toadstools, mushrooms, to me it worked in my mind. It's like, yeah, let's just put a little bit of mushroom lights in that little corner there just to add a little bit of extra detail. I wouldn't say it's an exact replica of Castell Coch, but it makes me smile. When I look at it, I had a look at lots of different angles. I took lots of screenshots because I thought it was just beautiful. And it just brings me joy. And that's what I wanted out of this. Castle Myers didn't bring me joy. I think it was because it was slightly that I knew it was created for him. And I really despised that character. But you'll have to let me know what you think. If you've seen Castell Coch or the Fairy Castle, the Red Castle, or if you've googled what it looks like, do you think that I made it similar enough to the real thing? Did I replicate this close enough? What do you think of the castle? Even if you don't know what it looks like, what do you think? I still need to figure out what I want to do for staff buildings as well. Should I just use the Twilight pack blueprints for those? Should I make my own staff buildings? I'm not sure. And let me know what animal from the Twilight pack you would like me to build a habitat for first. I'm gonna leave it off there. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button, and if you haven't already and you would like to, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. I upload speed builds on Wednesdays and shorts tutorials on Saturdays. I'm also on TikTok, and I upload Planet Zoo tutorials every other day on TikTok too. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!